Hi, warriors. This is Jalen, my legal warrior, and today we are featuring Wilson Adam Schooley here at No Lives Matter Unless. He is an immediate past chair of the American Bar Association's Civil Rights and Social Justice section called the Conscience of the ABA. The CRSJ was the bar's response to President Kennedy's call to action during the Civil Rights Movement. Founding members included the Supreme Court Justices William Brennan and Ruth Bader Ginsburg. As chair, focus was on facing our shameful 4-century legacy of enslaving and oppressing African Americans. He created the African American Affairs Committee and significantly increased racial diversity in the Leadership Council. He currently serves on the ABA's Coalition for Racial and Ethnic Justice, the board of editors of the ABA Journal magazine, and as a delegate in the ABA House of Delegates. For years, he has also shared the editorial board of Human Rights Magazine, an internationally recognized social justice publication. He bolstered that board membership and dramatically increased its diversities and issues per year, and raised the magazine's profile. Practices law in San Diego, where he is on the board of directors of the San Diego County Bar Association, the editorial board of the San Diego Lawyer magazine, and numerous committees, including the Committee for Diversity and Inclusion. For many years, a partner with large San Diego firms representing Fortune 100 companies in complex business trial litigation, he left his partnership 20 years ago to represent the indigent accused in criminal appeals and became an appellate specialist certified by the California State Bar. He has been a New York Times top attorney in San Diego and San Diego super lawyer from and since 2008. He spent his personal as well as professional life working on racial justice issues. He was the first in his class in the nation to voluntarily integrate its schools. Senator Kamala Harris was in the second class when he was bused to a predominantly Black school. In 1969, he worked on the Black Panthers' first free breakfast for children program, which fed thousands of children every day. At the University of California, he was an honorary member of the Alpha Phi Alpha, and at Duke University School of Law, a Black Law Student Association member. As a young lawyer, he helped found the first pro bono committee and policy for what was then the third largest and oldest San Diego law firm. The policy was heralded by the state bar president as a model for all firms in the ABA YLD. He led efforts to develop volunteer programs across the country and created and produced nationally televised public service announcement lauded by Attorney General Janet Reno. Finally, he made the ultimate commitment to legal work for the indigent by leaving a lucrative, high-profile law firm partnership to devote himself to representing the indigent accused, primarily people of color. As an adjunct professor in the University of San Diego of Law for 15 years, he was also a regular instructor for the National Institute for Trial Advocacy. He served as a Superior Court pro tem judge and as a barrister in the American Inn of Court, William B. Enright chapter. He has often written for publication and spoken on racial justice and civil rights, diversity and inclusion, constitutional law, legal writing, trial advocacy, pro bono policies, recruiting and retaining lawyers, and other topics. He is also a professional actor in film, TV, and theater, and a published photographer. You are very much accomplished and have done so much throughout your career. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm very good. I appreciate you having me, and I appreciate you doing this series, which is invaluable at this time and in any time. So it's great to be here.
Well, thank you again. I'm going to just jump right into it and ask you my first question, which is, how are you using your business and your socioeconomic status to fight against systematic racism?
I'll try to be concise. There are many ways in which one can make use of your practice for that end. When I was in a big firm, I, as mentioned, started a pro bono policy and committee that helped the firm channel its resources towards those kinds of issues, among others. I got very active in the local, state, and American Bar Association working in groups that were focusing on civil rights and racial justice issues. So that's another way. And the bar at that time, particularly the American bar, did a lot of public service projects, which were specifically geared to get lawyers actively involved in communities working on civil rights and racial justice issues. And then, as you mentioned, at some point, I just felt that was not enough, and I left my big firm partnership to represent the indigent accused, who are primarily poor, Black, and Latino people who are either about to be incarcerated or already are incarcerated and need the help of good lawyers very badly. And I also became more and more active in the American Bar Association Civil Rights and Social Justice section, which is the section you just referred to, which was founded by, among others, Justice Ginsburg and Justice William Brennan in response to President Kennedy's call for the lawyers in our country to get active on civil rights issues, given everything that was happening in the 1960s. And we're now seeing some of those same issues be in the forefront again. So that section was created then, and we've been working ever since on these issues. And last year, I chaired the section, which is a national section focused on civil rights. And we had our fall meeting in Montgomery, Birmingham, and Selma, Alabama, which is kind of the civil rights triangle during the civil rights movement in the 60s. And we focused not on the past as much as on the current and on the present. We met with Brian Stevenson, who's a very well-known name. There was a movie out last year, I think, called Just Mercy about him and his book and his institute, which is the Equal Justice Initiative, which is working constantly on African-American civil rights issues and has created a lynching museum in Montgomery that focuses on our history of lynching people, African-American folks in this country. In the spring meeting, we were in Baltimore, which is another hotbed of civil rights issues. We met with Congressman Elijah Cummings, who is now sadly no longer with us, but who was a strong voice on civil rights issues in the Baltimore area, where they've had a lot of problems with police and other issues. I created the African American Affairs Committee, which we did not have, believe it or not, in the civil rights section, which has now become a strong voice in itself on these issues nationally and in the bar, and tried to work on diversity and inclusion within the section to make it a much more representative section. So it wasn't just a bunch of old white people like me working on civil rights. Rather, it was a group that had people across the spectrum of ethnic and racial and gender and LGBTQ diversity. I'm now on the Coalition for Racial and Ethnic Justice, which is another group working obviously specifically on racial and ethnic justice issues. And in those roles, I'm being consulted virtually every day by groups and individuals across the country who are looking for ways to make their voice heard and join in the effort to respond to the murders of Mr. Floyd, Mr. Arbery, Ms. Taylor, Mr. Brooks, and others in a constructive way, and to develop police reforms and other reforms that can help move us forward as a country in ways that we unfortunately have not moved forward. This is an effort. Mr. Floyd's death is just another in a seemingly endless legacy of institutional lynchings and other lynchings in this country going back 4 centuries. Black Americans are they're just under 13% of the population today, but they are being killed by police at twice the rate of white folks. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Really, there's, we as a country, we really never forget. We all remember 9/11, but we've really never learned the lesson of slavery in this country or genocide against American Indians. And so we have a lot of work to do in facing and reconciling our roots in slavery and genocide and the effect on Black America in particular. And we never had the kind of process of truth and reconciliation, for example, that they had in South Africa. And we're overdue to have that. Only 150 years ago, we had slaves in this country. And today, Black American wealth is only 5% of white wealth, 5%. And if any of us If anybody came up to you and said, how would you like me to take 95% of your wealth away? You'd say, no, thank you. I wouldn't be able to live. But yet that's what we're looking at. So I try to do everything I can every day to contribute to that effort. And there are many ways working in your practice, working with bar associations and working with community activists, that even if you can just devote, a half hour a day, that's better than nothing. So that's an overview of what I try to do within my practice and side of it.
Right. I recall you stating that you were contributing some of your efforts to helping pass some legislation that focuses on, systematic racism. Can you explain to our viewership the process in getting that legislation passed on a federal level, and how exactly are you involved in that process?
Sure, and there are many ways that anyone can get involved, but if you're in the legal community and you're a lawyer, there are particular ways that you can channel those efforts. For example, in the American Bar Association, we have something called the House of Delegates, which is what I'm a delegate to the House of Delegates. I'm actually a San Diego County Bar delegate to the House of Delegates. The House of Delegates is like a lawyer's Congress for the Bar Association. We meet twice a year, and we consider potential legislation that has gone through a process of being drafted over time. And let's say in the months leading up to a meeting in either February or January or August, people will have been crafting legislation to address specific problems that we're having in the country. For example, in August, we'll have our House of Delegates meeting for this year. And we've been working all year on a resolution addressing police misconduct and particularly police violence against people of color. So that resolution is in its final stages right now. And we've been taking input from groups across the country who want to have their voice heard and want to help shape that resolution. And it's now pretty much in final form. We get it to the House of Delegates, it'll be debated. People will get up and speak as you would in Congress, and then a vote will be taken. And that will either pass or not pass. If it passes, then we move that up to the Hill, to members of Congress. And we have an opportunity to do a dialogue with them on an ongoing basis. And then every year, the ABA has a day that's called ABA Day, in which many of us will go to the Hill and spend 3 or 4 days meeting individually with our congresspeople and our senators and raising to them these issues, pointing out, we passed this legislation. This is now policy of the largest bar association in our country, and we would like you to move it along towards becoming actual legislation in our country. So that's a whole process that everybody who listens to this video can contribute to, either as a member of the American Bar Association or as a member of the California. Now, what is the California Lawyers Association? Used to be the state bar. But you can become involved that way just as I am. And I'm active every year in those forums, helping advance legislation that many times actually becomes the law of our land. Police resolution that we're working on now, we've been working on for a couple of years probably in its incipient stage, and then in an accelerated state this year. So it takes time, but it's something you can expedite when needed, which is what we're trying to do now.
This is absolutely wonderful, and we definitely commend you for your efforts and helping with this racial issue. Very thankful to have you on No Lives Matter to educate us, inspire us, and empower us to take action. And you named some pretty great organizations that I'm very well aware of, like the American Bar Association. So if somebody wanted to further this discussion and get in touch with you, how would they go about getting in touch with you?
Well, they can call my office line, which is area code 619-465-9640, or they can email me, and all you have to do is Google me, and I'm pretty easy to find. Happy to help. I'm happy to answer anybody's questions, and I, again, appreciate you're doing this, because although it may be trendy, that's the time to seize the opportunity and do more than just posture and post, and actually take productive action that can seize the moment and help us make a real difference. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much again, and I look forward to collaborating with you in the future, and I hope you have a
Thank you.
good day. Thanks.
You too. All right. Bye-bye.